I love all of that. I'll just highlight two things. One is what you said about the good people. I think that if you, especially a salesperson, if you have somebody on your team that can sell and they're doing a great job, keeping that person motivated and happy and on your team and preventing turnover for a stupid reason, let's just say, like a personality conflict or a policy change or a commission structure change or something that demotivates the person. Those are all things that are fixable by you as the leader, or preventable. I think that is probably one of the number one self-inflicted, things that I've had. Like you said earlier, if you got a salesperson that's doing $3 million and you let them go, you now have the challenge of trying to replace that $3 million and that person. And when you're hiring, I think the second thing I would say is, I love what you said about the assessments, and you can let good people go in the hiring process so long as you hire a good person. But hiring a bad person that doesn't sell, that's what really costs you. So getting really picky on weeding out who you bring to your team for me is a big deal, because when you have a good team, they ask to be coached, they do things outside, they want to be held accountable, they're helping you grow as a leader. If you have a bad team, there's only so much that you can do. You have all of these self-inflicted struggle. You get a lot of excuses. You get a lot more headaches. You get a lot more problems to solve. And when you hire, I'm just saying a bad person, they're obviously not bad people, but a poor performer, you're saying to the other people on the team, it's okay to have this person on the team that's not performing, that's dragging us down, that's creating drama and excuses. So I love that you highlighted people, and I wanted to give you one more shot at that. Is there anything else you'd add under the behavior bucket or respond?
Well, I think under the behavior bucket, our behavior needs to be consistent, and we need to be consistent in as far as accountability and clarity of our expectations. And I think sometimes as leaders, we avoid that because we don't want to have the tough conversations. And one of the things that we saw a person leave that was a top salesperson, but because all of a sudden we decided, or the leader decided, you need to start putting in all the information into your CRM system. Well, the guy had been there for about 3 to 4 years and no one had made him do that. Everybody else was doing it, but he wasn't. Now when they came in and this happened, gone. Just because we didn't do it in the beginning, it wasn't set out as far as an expectation. He looked at it as being punished. So.
Yeah, I can see that a lot for sure. So let's talk about techniques here and how we avoid self-inflicted problems as a leader. And a few things come to mind for me. We've mentioned assessments as objective third-party feedback, but I think also having a coach yourself or having somebody outside of you look at what you're doing. It's always easier to see somebody else and go, oh, I see what their problem is. They're doing this that's causing their team to do that. But when you're reading the label from inside the bottle, you got a completely different story. You're not looking
Absolutely.
at it objectively. So coach would be number one for me. What's on your list?
I think I would agree with you. I think coaching and being coached. I think that we need an accountability partner, whether it's a group like Vistage or something of that nature. But I believe that all leaders need to expose their self, and we don't want to typically do that because we feel like we have all the right answers, which is not true. I mean, I had a company before Sandler that we had 165 people. I can assure you they had more answers than I did. So they're, and I believe that having an assessment on yourself, knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, and not being afraid to bring people on board that are smarter than you or better than you, and some of the things we do. But when we look at also technique, I think we have to take have a hiring funnel, basically. Go down, understand what you're looking for, rather than just picking somebody out that you like. We had a owner of a company the other day. He had hired 5 people over the year. All 5 had left, and we did some assessments, and they said, well, I really like these people, and your assessment's saying they're not working. I said, well, how's that worked out for you before? So when we look at their behavior, but the technique, understand what leaders are looking at from a technique standpoint. How do we communicate? What's our culture within the organization? Um, you know, are they going to fit within? Can I deal with them? From that standpoint, what techniques do I need to do in order to communicate with them? You're communicating with a 65-year-old person versus a 22-year-old person. The communication, the technique's going to be different, and you need to be
I
able to step out of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things we haven't talked about, I think, is communicating that long-term vision and the goals for the organization. I think sometimes leaders fall into this trap of just saying like, we want to grow revenue. We want to sell as much as possible this year, and that's our only goal. And it doesn't really help the team with how to do that, how to not leverage the future of the company to get short-term gains, or how to not take advantage of our clients so that we get repeat business and all kinds of other things that might come into play. And I think you mentioned values earlier, but communicating that story of the company and why we're here, the why behind some of these choices from leadership really makes a big difference, because that's what gets the buy-in, and you get people stopping the fight over the different tactics and techniques.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing is that some of them, are looking at a goal, and it's a huge number, and we have to remember we're managing people, not numbers
Yeah.
alone. So one of the thing is, how do they achieve this goal? Break it down. Break the goal down. If it's a sales goal, break it down to how many activities we have to do, and then we're looking at this. We talked the other day with a client and said, all right, you're getting a lot of great meetings. However, how many of those meetings turn into presentations? And he said, well, not many. And I said, could we be doing unpaid consulting? And he looked at me. He says, well, I do that all the time. He said, and so when we were looking, I said, well, is that going to help you achieve your goals? He said, I guess not. So when we were looking at this, the leader had not picked up. But what are the issues that we need to focus on in order to improve and help our team improve and achieve the goals? Do they have an ideal customer profile? Do they know who to go after? Do they have a closing ratio that they know how many meetings they have to have in order to close a revenue? Do they know their average ticket? This is information that we as leaders should be providing them with, so that we can work simultaneously together. Because a person may be great at prospecting, but he may be terrible at closing. He just can't ask the tough, or she can't ask the tough question. And so we need to focus on what they need to do in order to improve. And I think that this is something that we just don't do until somebody is 3 months behind in their budget. And then we go, oh my God, what are we going to do here? We got to get rid of this person. And all we had to do was spend some time with this person.